Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, October 15. On this date in 2001, Monday Night Raw emanated from the Coral Center in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. In the main event, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Booker T defeated Kurt Angle and The Undertaker in a tag team match. On this date in 1971, Jason Arndt was born. The former WWE Hardcore Champion known as Joey Abs turns 40 today. On this date in 2002, WWE SmackDown was held in the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This episode of SmackDown featured the Tag Team Championship Tournament semifinals, where Edge and Rey Mysterio defeated Devon Dudley and Ron Simmons. And in the other semifinal, Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit defeated Eddie and Chavo Guerrero. This has been Today in Wrestling History, October 15.
Hi, this is Jim Cornette, and you're listening to Pro Wrestling Weekly with Ferran Derry on 1490 WBCB.
Joey Abs of the Mean Street Posse. There's a name you haven't heard in quite a while, huh? Funny stuff. Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. There you have it. Kurt Angle joining the program yesterday, and it was certainly an interesting interview, to say the least. Got just enough time for some news and notes, as well as my predictions certain to go wrong for Bound for Glory tomorrow. First, we'll get the predictions out of the way, give you the rest of the lineup. Of course, we've been talking extensively about Hogan and Sting and Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode, but there's a heck of an undercard as well. You've got Mexican America defending the tag titles against Inc. I've got Mexican America retaining their titles there. You've got a four-way match for the women's knockout title. You've got Winter defending against Mickie James, Velvet Sky, and Madison Rayne. Not sure why, but I think Winter's going to retain here. I've also got Austin Aries hanging on to the X Division title against Brian Kendrick. The triple threat match between Crimson, Matt Morgan, and Samoa Joe. I think Crimson's going to keep the undefeated streak going and win that one. Although there is a possibility that, he just won't lose in the fall, be the odd man out. But I'm going to go straight up win on that one. AJ Styles against Christopher Daniels in an I Quit match. As I mentioned earlier, I think Styles has that one. Mr. Anderson against Bully Ray in a Philly Falls Count Anywhere match. Well, considering Philadelphia, ECW roots, Bully Ray, got to go with Bully Ray on this one. Rob Van Dam against Jerry Lynn in a Full Metal Mayhem match. Call me crazy, and I'm sure a few of you have, but I'm going with Jerry Lynn on this one. Hogan against Sting. I think Hogan, as I said earlier, is going to somehow get the victory and keep control of the company and keep the storyline we've wanted to go away, unfortunately, still going. And finally, Kurt Angle against Bobby Roode for the TNA World title. I think Angle is going to retain the title. Bobby Roode definitely making a rise, but not quite ready for prime time yet, at least in my opinion. It's up to Bobby Roode to prove me wrong, or something like that. Anyway, to news and notes. You might remember Tomko, Tyson Tomko. He wrestled in WWE and TNA for a little while. Well, oh man, did he get into some trouble. He was arrested in Florida this past week after cops said that he was allegedly injecting himself with stolen pain medicine while hiding in the bathroom of a local Chili's restaurant. I can't make this stuff up. Even TMZ couldn't make this stuff up. Tomko, of course, wrestled between the two organizations from 2002 until 2009, accused of robbing a CVS pharmacy on October 10th, that, of course, being this past Monday, and allegedly threatening to attack the pharmacist unless he forked over several bottles of oxycodone, which is a narcotic pain-relieving medication. The pharmacist claimed he complied, and Tomko escaped with 210 tablets of the powerful painkiller. And then, according to the police report, courtesy of TMZ, Tomko went to a nearby Chili's restaurant where he asked his waitress for a spoon. When the server brought him a teaspoon, he asked for a, quote, deeper spoon. Interesting. And when he got it, he took it to the men's room where he remained for 30 to 40 minutes. The cops were eventually called, and when they arrived on the scene, an officer said that Tomko had, quote, needle marks and blood running down his arm and had just flushed something down the toilet. Tomko taken into custody and allegedly told police he has a severe drug problem. You think? Tomko admitted that he took the oxycodone from the CVS and had injected 178 pills which he crushed up and melted down. Crazy stuff. But he swore he never threatened the pharmacist. He was taken to a nearby hospital and then transported to a nearby Florida jail where he's booked for robbery and is behind bars with bond set at $7,500. A shame for Tonko, who had a pretty good run between the two organizations, but obviously a little bit of a fall from grace. And speaking of falls from grace, we talked a little bit earlier. Scott Hawley's going to be featured in an ESPN E60 documentary that's going to air this coming Wednesday on ESPN. And also another Bound for Glory note that that Mexican-America Inc. match, you'll be able to see that prior to the pay-per-view. That's going to be a part of a 30-minute pregame that will air on Facebook before tomorrow's Bound for Glory pay-per-view. That'll be the tag title match, Mexican-America against Inc. You can check that out at, of course, on Facebook. And some other news, former WWE creative team member Dave Lagana, he's joined the TNA creative division as the director of creative writing. He's leaving Ring of Honor to tackle some new challenges. He says, quote, "My duties will be to focus solely on the development of new wrestling shows beyond the Impact Wrestling show. I'm excited to see what the future holds and thank everyone for the support over not only the last 9 months of this site, but through my entire career. Best of luck to Dave. Let's see if he can keep things going with TNA, and that'll more than likely be good because there are some changes with the parent network, Spike TV. Spike TV Senior Vice President Brian Diamond let go by the network. His official title was Senior Vice President of Sports and Specials for Spike TV. Spike has now named John Slusser to the newly created position of Senior VP of Sports and Multi-Platform Programming. It's according to the Sports Business Journal Daily. And the story notes that Slusser will be pursuing non-traditional events that fall into 4 categories: fighting, motorsports, lifestyle sports, and event sports. And, no word as to necessarily where wrestling falls into there, because in that press release they didn't mention wrestling. So maybe Spike TV has to step it up a little bit. Who knows? It is hard to say. Also, you might remember Brian James, or the Road Dogg, BG James, a number of different names, but I'm sure you remember him. He's been hired on a trial basis by the WWE as a producer. He wrote in his Twitter account, "It's just a 6-week trial as a producer. It's a dream job for me. I pray that I can contribute in a positive way." Wouldn't be a bad thing, to say the least. And Ric Flair. Well, we won't be seeing him necessarily, at least in action on the pay-per-view, especially after that torn triceps, but he told Mike Mooneyham of the Charleston Post and Courier that he may not undergo surgery to repair that torn triceps after all. He says, quote, "It's postponed right now, but I may not even have to have it. The doctor looked at it and said the thing was healing itself. He told me it was a miracle. He said, 'Rick, you're 1 in a million. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.'" Only the nature boy. Only the nature boy. Oh, wow. And one other note and tidbit. WWE now taking votes for the first WWE Network television show. The network apparently is happening, starting in 2012. And the first show, they're going to do a WrestleMania retrospective that begins with the original version of the show that took place in Madison Square Garden back in 1985. The options, well, you can vote on them. There's either WrestleMania Revisited, WrestleMania Rewind, WrestleMania Flashback, or WrestleMania Review. So you get to pick the title of the show. At least you get to vote for it. Check that out at WWE.com. That's going to just about do it for me. Congratulations to Kelly, who had called up at the beginning of the interview. And she's got the pair of Bound for Glory tickets for tomorrow's pay-per-view, as well as a Bound for Glory prize pack. I don't know what the actual retail value is. I'll leave that to Drew Carey. But they will certainly have a good time at the show with that. And I'll, of course, have my review of everything that went down at Bound for Glory. Plus, a little bit later today, the Kahuna and I were making our way to the fan interaction thing. Looking forward to hopefully meeting the aforementioned Nature Boy, as well as the Hulkster and a ton of others who are down at the Marriott Airport for that special fan interaction event. That's going to do it for me. Thanks, as always, to Bill Melody here in studio. He'll have an abbreviated version of the Country Music Hall coming up next. And that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for that, and I'll be back next week with more Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB.